Hello, rock fans. Welcome to another episode of Rock and Roll Confessional. What, you want to do it? Can you do it better? Go ahead, do it.
Oh, no, I just, it's just like, I can't beat that. That's pretty good.
You can try.
Pretty genuine.
Did you feel it?
I was feeling it, yeah.
For a second.
But I don't know why I was laughing. I think I was laughing out of amusement of, hey, he changed personalities just like
I did.
Not personalities.
I'm a radio guy.
Emphasis. Hey, I'm a radio. Okay.
I am C.W. West.
I'm Rita Wild. And this episode is with Steve Berlin, who plays saxophone, flute, percussion, and keyboards, and is one of the members of the band Los Lobos. Los Lobos is an iconic East Los Angeles band that has been together for almost 50 years with hits like Will the Wolf Survive? Come On, Let's Go, Don't Worry Baby, and LaBamba. They have followed their roots all the way to their new album, Native Sons.
This new album is a collection of the most influential Los Angeles-based bands that have impacted Los Lobos through their career, including Jackson Browne, War, Buffalo Springfield, and many, many more. Steve talks not only about the new album, but some of the band's highlights over the years.
And here we go with our interview with Steve Berlin of Los Lobos. Hey.
Howdy.
Hi, Steve.
Hey.
How are you today?
Good. How you doing?
Good. Such a pleasure to welcome you to Rock and Roll Confessional. Your band is just so synonymous with Los Angeles and the sound of Southern California that, this new album that you got coming out, Native Sons, is essentially kind of like, I wouldn't say a love letter, but just an homage to the city, the place where all this music that you love came from.
That is exactly right. Yeah, that was kind of the idea going into it, was some way to acknowledge the support and the debt that we, and I guess to a certain extent, the mantle that we carry as being so identified with Los Angeles that, we kind of wanted to, I guess, put a spotlight on that, like the love that we have for the city and all these artists that basically formed us, that without which, we would not be talking, and we might still be a band, but it might have been a different thing entirely. So we just kind of wanted to say thank you, I guess, in our own weird way.
It's an album that's basically cover tunes with Jackson Browne, the Premiers, Beach Boys, War, all LA influences of your band, of Los Lobos, right?
Yeah. I mean, that was kind of the notion, is that we would, there are people that have meant so much to us, like the Blasters, for instance, and the Midnighters and War, most of whom are actually are really good friends. But, we kind of wanted to musically say thank you. And then also, stuff like the Central Avenue sound, like the Never No More, like that was a huge part of our DNA as well. Yeah, it was, the idea started with a covers record, and then we sort of thought, well, that's cool, but let's see if we could focus the idea somewhat and try and give it some sort of thematic unity. And initially it was just sort of like, how far could we take this? Like, could we do a whole record like this? And lo and behold, 14 songs later, I guess the answer is yes. Yeah. Probably could have another 40 songs if we wanted to.
Yeah, I was wondering how many bands or how many songs did you originally pick out that had to get narrowed down to these?
Probably close to 100, to be honest with you, but it was like just stuff from all over the place. We did a Christmas record in 2019, and we employed more or less the same methodology. Like, we just reached out to friends and record collectors and people who knew us and who knew like kind of what we like. And on that one, we had like 140 or 150 or something like that. And this one, I would say probably close to 90, but just like there were kind of subdivided. So it was like 50s R&B, 70s R&B, 90s R&B, punk rock, country. We just sort of had to, we couldn't just listen to 90, songs. We just sort of had to roughly like a Chinese menu, like one from column A, one from column B. Like, we sort of had to mix and match them a little bit, so we didn't overload it with anything. And at the end of the day, we got it down to about, I don't know, probably 25 without too much trouble. And a lot of it wasn't like we ended up doing this. A lot of it was songs that suggested songs that were, actually songs that were close to us. Like, it wasn't like, we literally chose them from this list. It was like, oh, that reminds me of this, like the Jaguar song, that came from another song. And Dave was like, oh, wait a minute, there's a song that I remember from growing up. And that's where that one came from. Yeah, it was just sort of like a process, I guess, to a certain extent, like just trying to like find our way through it. And of course, like doing it under COVID was interesting. It wasn't like we sat down in a studio and did it like over 6 weeks, like we normally do on a record. Like, it was spread out over effectively, I guess almost 10 months, like just a couple days a month, depending upon, what was going on in the city. Like I don't live in LA anymore. I live in Southwest Washington. So, I would come down and then I'd have to quarantine on the way back, hide from my family for 2 weeks. I mean, it was a challenge, but we pulled it off, and we stayed healthy. We got tested before every session. Everybody tried to stay, bubble. I mean, it wasn't that hard through the summer. I mean, everybody was in a bubble regardless, but we tried not to interact with any other people outside of the group that was working in the studio. And it was, certainly something I won't forget, but certainly something I would not want to do again if I didn't have to.
I would think that'd be hard, especially if you're having to come down, because you recorded it all in the studio together, right? It wasn't like everybody did their separate track.
No, we did it all pretty much and we have a studio in East LA that we discovered that we love. So that's kind of our clubhouse now. So yeah, we were all face to face for the most part. I mean, I did some stuff at home. Caesar did a bunch of his stuff at home, but I'd say, probably more than 85% of the record was done in a room. But it's the studio's really big. It wasn't, it's not like it was really easy to distance. I mean, we were, everybody's really, really conscious of following the rules. So we were masked up the whole time except when we were playing, and we were kind of like staying away from each other. It was weird as weird as you might imagine, but luckily the studio was big enough to, it wasn't like, a lot of studios that we worked in over the years, it would be impossible. Literally, there's almost no place you could be 6 feet away from anybody else, unless you were like all in a line, which wouldn't really work for anyone. So this place is perfect for that.
You guys just started back out on the road doing some shows, right? So how is that?
Yes, yeah. It's been the last couple have been really, very normal, like kind of like regular. Just you wouldn't know if there was anything going on. So slowly but surely, we did over the course of the lockdown. We did a couple drive-in shows, and we did one at this place in Santa Cruz where it's a hotel that faces the ocean, and the tickets were you'd buy the room, and then you could have as many people in your room
as
you wanted, as would fit, and then everybody was on the balcony, and we're playing on the pool. So it was kind of that was kind of. I hope they keep doing that one. It's actually kind of a fun way to do it. But we just played over the weekend in
Taos, right?
Taos, yeah. It was like kind of pretty real, pretty normal. Yeah. So knock on wood. Hopefully, they'll get more so.
Yes, and hopefully not to worry too much about the Delta variant.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
That's going on. But you guys have a couple of shows coming up here in Southern California as well, and there's one specifically at the Pacific Amphitheater that's going to be just crazy, because you guys are on that with X and is it the Blasters?
The Blasters too, yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to be like Whiskey A Go-Go 1982.
A little bigger.
That's going to be
we're
awesome.
All still here. Is that except with notable exception of Gene Taylor. I mean, everybody's still here. So
you joined Los Lobos from the Blasters, correct? Yeah. Like was it 83, 84?
It's the history has smudged the timeline a little bit. Anybody would have asked me, I would have said it was 83, but I heard a tape. It was a live tape from 84, which in my head I was like, long after the Blasters, and I was still, like, hey, it's Steve Berlin from the Blasters. Like, so I don't know, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
It was like one of those, like, dinosaur, like, oh, there's like 50,000 years where they transitioned from pterodactyl to Tyrannosaurus rexes. So.
I know you're doing a bunch of shows with the Blasters. Do you still play with them when you guys play together?
Yes, when we play together, yeah, I'm sure I will play with them. We still a lot of love for those guys, and Dave Alvin as well. Like he's one of those buddies. So it's still family, man. It's not. I co-produced John Doe's next record. I mean, we're still all in the same. Obviously older. not a lot wiser, but we're still very, very close, and just nothing but love. I mean, that was when we were doing the record. There were like a couple of like automatic, it was like we're Blasters, War, Midnighters, like no questions asked. We're doing one of, we ended up doing effectively 2 Midnighter songs. So
what was the other one? The first one was that kicks off the album. It's great.
Yeah, Love Special Day. And Farmer John is like that one is, it's kind of the Don and Dewey arrangement, but it's also the Midnighters also did it. Their version's pretty close to that as well. So
now, when was that a hit? Because I don't think I was living here in Southern California.
Oh God, that would have been like 60s, mid 60s, or at least, toward the 65. I want to say. I'm not exactly sure myself, but that was kind of their era.
And the guy who plays drums on the original plays drums on this one?
No.
No, okay.
He was later. No, I think the original guy passed away a while ago. No, the guy that played drums on our version also passed away relatively recently. But he was in a later version of the Midnighters, as far as I know. But I don't think he was the guy in the original. Okay. That's a good question. I'll have to find out. I think I'm pretty sure he was not the original guy. Yeah,
just a great song. I mean, and that shouts off like, hey, we're here to entertain and stuff like that. And then you go through all sorts of different things, a couple of Latin influenced tunes. And some of the covers, I've got to commend you, especially like on Jackson Browne.
Yes.
Yeah.
Jamaica Say You Will. I mean, that's such a special song, but you guys pull it off.
Well, a lot of these songs like that one, I think the Beach Boys song, they're not simple. I mean, they sound simple, but there's a lot of complexity, and we had to like literally try and find the secret key, like some of it, like actually both of those songs, I think the key was the figuring out the background parts and getting those right. I think on the Beach Boys song, it was figuring out like the way, like, Brian Wilson was such an incredible genius. Like the chord voicings were very jazzy, like not rock, like, most rock and roll songs are relatively simple chord voicings, but his were very much influenced by the jazz, 50s jazz stuff. So there's like really intricate chord voicings that we couldn't figure it out. We had to hire somebody to tell us what he was doing, to be honest with you. But yeah, Jackson Browne's song, he's another guy who was a huge influence especially on Louis on the songwriting, like the sense of economy in the lyrics, like, getting a beautiful idea across with just very simple imagery. He was, really profound influence on us. And I'm really that when we started talking about doing that song, I was like, wow, that's ambitious. Like I was thinking that, like, how are we going to pull that off? But we did, I think. I mean, I'm proud of it. I think Jackson likes it. So, I feel terrible if we did it and the people we covered thought it was terrible.
I was wondering, have you heard from everybody?
Well, Brian Wilson said that he loved it. And then Al Jardine from the Beach Boys came out and sang with us a couple of weeks ago. He did a gig with us and played and sang on it. That guy's like, you wouldn't, I don't know how old he is, but he seemed like a teenager. He was like running around and, we did 2 shows, one like early afternoon and one at night. And like he came for the early show. We're like, oh man, that was great. Thanks so much. It was like 3:00 and 8:00. And he's like, okay, see you later. And then he came back for the late show. We're like, dude, you didn't have to. You were good. Wow. You were good with the first one. Like no, I want to do it again. Let's go.
That's great.
So yeah, he proved. I think we've heard pretty much from everybody that's still with us, and so far everybody approves.
How about Stephen Stills? Because you do The Ambitious. Because what a great song.
He's the one guy we haven't heard from. I knew there was one. Yeah, I hope he likes it. I mean, that was the one. That was like everything else. We really tried to put up our take on it, our spin on it. But that one, the aspiration was to try and get it, like try to make it sound like him, like try and make it sound like their version of it. Mm-hmm. I think we got pretty close. I mean, it's close as we could get, I think. Yeah, but yeah, that was the one where we really tried to, because those sound. I mean, just like the sound of those records is so powerful, and with acoustic guitars no less. I mean, they sound like they're gigantic. So we went for it. Hopefully, I really hope he likes it.
And that was Bluebird and For What It's Worth.
Right. Yeah.
What they covered from Buffalo Springfield. So, and then you guys have one original on here, which is basically the title track, which is Native Sons, which is a really, really good song. I really enjoyed hearing it. And it really, it just brought me back to the roots of Los Lobos. It just felt like what you guys are all about. You guys have so many different sounds, which is so impressive to me.
Okay.
I've always wondered, like, what is a Los Lobos audience? How much is Hispanic? How much is whatever, Irish American, whatever we're calling ourselves these days? But it's really a big combination.
It's really rainbow. I mean, there's no, obviously it depends on where we're playing. Like some places it's primarily Hispanic audiences, and some places it's not. But we're blessed that our fans are from everywhere, every generation. It's not unusual for 3 or 4 generations even to be at our shows. Like the grandmoms bringing the little ones. So it's that part's been really, really gratifying. We had the big hit with LaBamba, and a lot of people have
huge hit
heard about us, but somehow or another, that's now 40 years ago almost, and we're still cooking along, and the audiences have been very, very generous with us. Obviously we've taken a few left turns over the years, and they've always stayed with us. So it's we're really blessed.
How did you guys get, I don't know if lumped in is the right word, but how did you get into the punk scene? I don't feel like there's a whole lot of punk in your music, but yet so much of what you guys did and who you opened it for, I mean, Public Image and Circle Jerks and, even hanging with X and Blasters who are, more, I don't know, I would consider them more a little bit rockabilly than punk, but still it was that LA 70s, 80s punk scene. How did you get thrown in there?
Well, that scene was way more, there was a lot more stuff going on. I mean, obviously call it the punk scene, but, there were all kinds of different bands in there, and we were, the thing about it in that time was everybody, everything was so new. Like the scene was so new. Everybody had like new identities, and everybody was, it wasn't like there was an established ethos or, it's like something that you had to sort of do to get into the club. It was like, everybody was experimenting with every aspect, artistically, personally, everything. Like I was telling somebody the other day, like I've known John Doe for, the better part of 50 years. And he came to see us play, not too long ago. And now I know his real last name. I never bothered to, never really dawned on me that I've known this guy for years. I never knew what his real name was. But my point is,
do you want to share that? No,
I don't know. I'm sure he doesn't really care. But my point is that the scene was way more open to every idea than just like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. It was. I mean, it kind of got as it was sort of like fading out. It got a little sillier that way. That there was sort of like somebody seemed to have imposed rules, but. When we started out, when we were opening for the Circle Jerks and Fear and Black Flag, it was just like, it wasn't unusual to have a show with like us and a hardcore band and then like Joe Liggins or, Hank Ballard, like somebody, some crooner from the 50s on the, playing with us as well. It was just like all these ideas were coming in and all these like kind of everybody wanted to hear what everybody else was up to. So it was not unusual at all to us that we'd be playing to a punk crowd, and they embraced us for the most part. I mean, with the singular exception of that first Public Image show, which was, I was not in the band then, but I was at that show, and that was kind of a debacle. But as the scene itself, I mean, that was sort of like, that was sort of a separate thing. But within the scene, it was everything. Like everybody wanted to hear these ideas. They wanted to hear what Los Lobos was doing. Everybody wanted to hear what the Blasters were doing. Everybody wanted to hear what Fear was doing and what Black Flag was doing, just because it was so interesting and new. Like no one had heard any of this music before, so it was just like every show was an adventure.
Exciting times.
And a lot of that, that's my only regret about this record is that we weren't able to find a song that would have sort of given our thanks to that scene as well. Like that. Because that is a huge part of who we are now, was the people that we met then that were so supportive of us. And really, it was also about like hard work. I mean, it wasn't unusual to play 4 or 5 shows or sometimes 3 or 4 shows in a night. And just like everybody went after it. There was no slacking. There was nobody, there weren't any stars, like there was no, like everybody sort of treated everybody with enormous respect and support. And it was a huge part of who we are to this day. And I wish to God, we could have found a song that we could have said, well, that's our tribute, our way of saying thank you to that scene, because there were so many people that helped us in those years.
I'm really curious about how you got to be with the band. You were born in Philadelphia.
Right.
So when did you come out to Southern California, and how did you start hanging out with all these vatos locos?
I moved, I showed up Christmas 1975.
Okay.
I first landed here. That sort of, there wasn't a scene per se. So I came out to play, there was a band called the Soul Survivors from Philly. They had a big hit with Expressway to Your Heart in the 60s. So there were two brothers that were the singers, and then there was a band behind them. And the band behind them were all Philadelphia guys that I would jam with in Philly. I was never in the band, but they were my buds, and, we would play together and hang out together. And, we were just like kind of running partners. And then they moved to LA in 74, and they were a really good band. And not long after they arrived, they got hired by both Billy Preston and Greg Allman, like in short order.
Wow.
To be the backup band. I know. It's kind of crazy.
Jeez.
And they were like, man, you got to come out here. It's, it's easy. So I packed up and moved out. And then within like 2 weeks of my arrival, they lost both gigs.
Oh.
For various reasons. But, I was here and I wasn't going back to Philly. I mean, I love Philadelphia with all my heart, but it was, there was nothing going on there when I left. So we put a band together. We actually got signed to Casablanca Records in the 76, 77. So we got to be a front row seat for that adventure, even though we didn't play anything like disco. We were kind of like an R&B band, if anything. But we were there and sort of got to see and learn a lot of stuff. But I was the youngest in the band by like 10 years. Everybody else was at least 10 years older than me, more or less. And I just sort of like, that we made a record, we were playing around with it, but it was kind of, that band was already falling apart. And so I was playing with a bunch of different people, and I met a guy named Fast Freddy who was putting a band together called the Precisions. So he asked me to play with him, and through him, I got to meet basically everybody that's in my life now. I got to meet the Blasters and X, because he was sort of he wasn't a great singer, but he was quite a character, and everybody loved him and everybody knew him. He was a DJ back then, like before there was, what has come to mean now. So it wasn't unusual for him to play records at like the Starwood or the Lingerie or any of these clubs, like between bands. He would be he'd be playing the records. It was really through him that I entered this orbit of people. And then I got a job at a music store on Larchmont, Bettman's music store, which was like, weird little music store back when there were not, these conglomerate, it wasn't Guitar Center. It was a house on Larchmont near Beverly. And I was the sax guy. It was me and Marty Gerard from the Motels we were like the two horn guys in the store. And one day the phone rings, and it was Dave Alvin saying, "Do you have a baritone sax? We're doing a song. We need a baritone." And I didn't, but I said I did because there was one in the store. So
how you got the gig?
I borrowed it and went down and played, and that was sort of the rest of my life has been that. I mean, the session went well. I joined the Blasters for a couple of years, and then one day the Blasters there was like 4 or 5 nights at the Whiskey. It was sort of like the pinnacle, like the Blasters were coming up, and then, a long weekend at the Whiskey A Go-Go was like the highest profile gig the Blasters had played in LA to that point. And one of the nights there was this band Los Lobos that was opening, and they literally obliterated everybody. I mean, the amazing thing about it, I'm drawing this picture of the scene at that time, like everything and everybody is brand new. Like the oldest band in the scene had been together for probably no longer than 2 years. Like, it might be the Screamers or the Weirdos or maybe X, but this is 1981. So nobody had been together for more than 2 years. There was no there before that. And here's this band from East LA that had been together for 7 years at that point, 8 years, and had played like literally 7 nights a week, 2 or 3 gigs a day. So they had like this sort of like, hard to describe, but this sort of like fierceness and this sort of like this tenacity about them that nobody had achieved because no one had been together that long. Like everybody else was sort of still like figuring out their stuff. And here's these guys that have been together and played together and done all the work of being, in a band for years. And it just sort of like, I don't know, I just remembered everybody just being blown away. And that's literally like all anybody talked about was like, did you see Los Lobos? Like, it was like one of the things where like there were like 200 people in the room, but there was like 2,000 people that swear that they were there that night. And so we just, we became friends, and they said, we have some songs that have sax parts. You want to learn them and play them? And I was like, of course, let's do it. And just kind of it started there, and 40 whatever years later, here we are.
All right. I hope that you're enjoying that. Steve Berlin of Los Lobos. Time for a quick break, and we'll have more with Steve in just a second.
Thank you, Patreon sponsors, especially Lisa Alexander. Lisa probably said to herself, this is a great, fantastic podcast. I wonder if there's a way I could help support it. And all of a sudden, Lisa became one of our great supporters. If you're saying to yourself, how can I be as cool as Lisa? Do what she did. Just go to Patreon, patreon.com. And for as little as $1 a month, you can become a groupie, a roadie, or a rock star. Or you can also go to our website to sign up at rockandrollconfessional.rocks and just tap on the support tab. Okay, Rita Wild, got some trivia, some Los Lobos trivia.
I have a friend of mine that gave me this, and I think, I thank him for it because this was a good one.
Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, that friend.
Yeah, you friend.
Okay.
David Hidalgo is one of the lead singers and guitarists for Los Lobos. His son, David Hidalgo Jr., plays drums on many of the tracks on the band's new album. What other well-known Southern California band does David drum for? David Jr., his son, what does he drum for? We will tell you the answer after the second half.
Now get ready for our part 2 of our interview with Steve Berlin of Los Lobos. Was there animosity with the Blasters when you left?
No, not at all. It was when I left the Blasters. It was, they weren't falling apart, but like Dave was kind of leaving. Like he was getting tired of the Blasters there was a lot of fighting within the band. Like they actually liked fighting. That was to be specific. They really enjoyed. Fighting. There's no
brothers, right?
Yeah.
Others, but it wasn't just the brothers. It was everybody in the band. They actually had this, they looked forward to fighting. It didn't take much to get a fight going. I say this, but it's really true. They'd fight about the weather. They'd fight about I remember there was a huge fight about the color. Gene and Phil got in this huge fight about the color of the sleeve of a 45 that this like obscure blues record that Phil said was blue and Gene said was green. And they just got this huge war. Obviously there was an answer. There was like one of them had to be wrong. But so I think Dave was getting tired of that. For me, it was still exciting, but it was tough because, I was the only guy in the band, they had made record, but I had made a record before. I kind of, wasn't like I knew a lot, but, I'd sort of seen how it worked at least. And I was, again, the youngest and the newest. So my opinion was like, I had nothing to say. There was like nobody wanted to hear anything that I had to say about anything. And that was, got a little tired of that, to be honest with you. So when it was time to leave, I don't think it was not a momentous thing. It wasn't like, Paul McCartney leaving the Beatles or anything like that. It would be like, oh, okay.
See ya.
Yeah, see ya. Have fun.
Wow.
So it wasn't a big deal.
But great things came from that. And then, of course, the 80s with the debut album. My God, what a great record that was. We Will Survive. Yeah. I remember playing that on KLOS so much and just, it had something to say. It just wasn't just a great song. It was just, it caught you in that spirit place, or at least it caught me in that spirit place.
Yeah. I remember the day that Dave brought that song into rehearsal. I was like, wow, okay, well, everything's different now.
Yeah.
It sort of hit me the same way. I'm like, okay, well, I've set a bar. We're gonna have to ride a little higher from here on out.
Another one of the big influences that I think is important to talk about is War, and you do a rendition of "The World Is a Ghetto." War is one of those bands that grew up South Bay, Long Beach, San Pedro kind of area, and they had a lot of national recognition, I guess, because of Eric Burden and so forth. But they did a lot of stuff after all that stuff too, and just amazing vibe and sound.
Yeah, they a huge influence on us coming up. They weren't from East LA, but East LA adopted them. So, effectively they were, that was kind of, it was the Midnighters first, and then War would be like the two, the Rolling Stones and the Beatles of East LA, effectively speaking. So, yeah, it was a big deal. And we, the band has become fractured. There's two sides of it. Now there's Lonnie's side and there's everybody else. And we're actually close to both sides. We're like the Switzerland of like, they don't get along at all, but we get along with both of them. And, we hang out with, we have hung out with them. And, sadly, a lot of the original guys have passed now, but we still see when we play in Seattle, Lee Oscar, the harmonica player, always comes out and plays with us. And, we run into Lonnie every now and again. We actually, like, our bass player's son worked for War, and the guy who has been our road manager now for, I don't know, a couple of decades came from War. He was War's road manager. So there's a lot of family, real family and musical family with those guys. And yeah, that was, like I said earlier, we knew going in that we're going to do a War song. So I think we tried to do it justice and try to capture something of what they were about. I realized after the fact, to my horror, that I kind of got the horn part wrong, but I think we got the spirit right.
That's your signature, Steve, though. That's why you have to look at it.
Yeah, I know. Now it is. But yeah, that's, we felt a debt to them that we tried to somehow or another repay with that song. So
great.
What was it about Portland that drew you to it? I mean, it's a beautiful city, and LA is just too congested and crowded. So I imagine that had something to do with it.
I grew up on the East Coast. As did my wife. I didn't know her in Philly, but we're both from Philly, and we like seasons. We really like fall. We really like, not that, it's not like the East Coast. I left there for a reason, but we kind of like that, and we just sort of, this is like 87, 88 when we first moved up to the Northwest. Like, we just sort of fell in love with everything about it. It takes some getting used to. It's not for everybody. You got to put up with a lot of rain and a lot of dark. The main thing is really, it's like the wintertime, it's really dark. And we lived, we left LA. We got married in LA. We lived in LA, obviously, through the 80s. And then we moved to this island off the coast of Seattle. And it was, it was beautiful. It was very idyllic. But like the wintertime, like some days it feels, how that you've been up at dawn, like right before the light breaks. And it's literally, there'll be like 2 months where it feels like that. It never feels like dawn ever. Like the sun never actually rose. So you just got to get used to that. A lot of people can't. Took her. I mean, I spent a lot of my life in recording studios, so I'm used to the darkness, all day. But she wasn't. But eventually, it kind of, you kind of fall in love with that. You embrace it. And then, so we lived there for 16 years and started a family. And then when our kids got a little bit older, this island got a little small. It's just like, there's nothing to do. There's certainly nothing for teenagers to do except, get in trouble. So yeah, we looked around, and this was, early 2000s, and Portland just seemed to be a cool place to be. And, I was in Seattle for the whole grunge thing. I mean, I showed up right as that was starting, and then I got to Portland when Portland became the place for a few minutes there. So, and now we live in Southwest Washington. So sort of like we're across the river from Portland. It's a lot quieter.
Yeah, that's good.
Do you have any other side gigs up there to get the music out of you?
Yeah, actually, I've been playing, actually lately I've been playing with some bands up here just to get my road muscles back. If you're not doing it for so long, it's not like you just turn it on. Like you sort of have to, it's like marathon running, you sort of have to figure, you got to build it back up. So there's a band here called the Quick and Easy Boys that I've been playing with whenever they play, just to sort of get my endurance back up. I'm doing a gig, not this week, the next weekend, with a band called Thumper. That was, there was a sax player whose name was Ralph Carney, who played with Tom Waits for many years.
Okay.
Really, really remarkable, beautiful soul, like just a really remarkable guy. And he passed away very tragically. This is pre-pandemic. He actually fell down a flight of stairs. So that was his band, and they've asked me to join them. They're getting ready. Their bass player is moving out of the area, so we're going to do like one last show as Thumper. So that's next not this Saturday, but next Saturday. But yeah, I've been, I'd like to think I'm part of the scene here, like I try to be, but it's a pretty big scene. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on here. And we've actually, the clubs here are just starting to open now. Like everything has been outdoors up until I believe like about a week ago or 2 weeks ago. So now, literally, as we speak, they're indoor shows again. But we stayed closed for way longer than a lot of places.
Yeah.
You guys, I think it was last month, you just got an award from the National Endowment for the Arts.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, it was pretty amazing, to be honest with you. It's they honor you for like years of working, creating something special with uniquely American sound. So it's I don't have the list handy, but it's really a remarkable group of artists that get highlighted every year. And normally there's a big party at the White House, and you receive your award there. And unfortunately, I don't think there's going to be one this year. But yeah, it's kind of a big deal. The list is, the people that are on that list are just, Charles Ives and Earl Scruggs and, and then painters and dancers and, authors. And it's quite an honor, I have to say. And it came about, actually, it was interesting. There's a band called Making Movies whose records I have produced. And they have a nonprofit. They're really smart guys. So they're an amazing band. I highly recommend them. And they built a nonprofit part of their world, and they have this school that they're doing. They're teaching songwriting and record production and business management to at-risk kids. They're in Kansas City, so through that they got on the radar of the NEA, and they were talking to somebody, and they said, "Hey, if you know anybody that you think's worthy of a nomination, let us know." And they brought it. They said, "Well, how about Los Lobos?" So it's kind of amazing, and they did it completely secretly. We had no idea it was happening. And then one afternoon, our road manager said, "Hey, we have a Zoom call tomorrow at noon. Everybody's got to be there." No idea what it was, and it was those guys and Alex Padilla, the senator.
Yeah,
he was on the call, who we've known forever. And he actually gave us the official, like, well, you guys,
Wow.
I know this kind of weird that we're all talking, but I just want to let you know that you're the National Endowment of the Arts. Forget it. There's a fellowship something award. I should really know this, but yeah, it's really cool.
Congratulations. That's very impressive.
Thank you.
Yeah.
and you played at the White House about 8 or 10 years ago. So you've kind of done that.
We played Obama's first year.
Awesome.
It was a tribute to Latin music night, and that was fun. That was really amazing. We got to meet him and Michelle and the dog, and hang out with in the White House. I mean, this is it seems amazing now, but we're invited to the White House. We're playing, and we're like we're actually in the green room, like there's a green room, and a red room, and a blue room, and we're hanging out in these like legendary places and looking at these portraits of George Washington and Thomas Jefferson, like all this. It was overwhelmingly fun and cool, and they were unbelievably gracious. They were just very easy, normal people, just hanging out, enjoying a night and having a party at their house, more or less. So it was pretty cool.
Good times.
That's great. Yeah. Okay, Steve, we have a couple last-minute questions. It's called the bonus round, so we're going to just throw you some fun questions. Reet, you want to kick it?
What was the first concert you went to?
First concert I went to was a band called Dreams, which was the Brecker Brothers, because my parents and their parents were friends, and they were playing at Steel Pier in Atlantic City, and I probably was 11, maybe 10. And you want to talk about a good first show, like seeing Michael Brecker live and meeting and hanging out with him.
Wow,
nice. As an 11-year-old was, I guess my path was set from that concert, more or less. But I'm pretty sure that was my first actual real concert. I was there by myself, I think. So yeah, pretty cool.
Do you have a special Spinal Tap moment that has happened to you in your career, touring, recording, playing?
So this is a good story. So this is the LaBamba era, and we're opening for U2 at in Indianapolis at I forget what it's not the Hoosier, whatever the big
Market Square.
It wasn't. It was. I think it was outdoor. It was like a big outdoor. Might have been Purdue's football field, or whatever. So we had done it a couple shows with them, and for some reason I was there earlier than everybody else. And the guys, Indianapolis is right on the line of Central Time and Eastern Time, and they didn't know the time had changed. So I'm the only one there, and it's showtime, and nobody's there.
You have a 1 hour solo?
No. So we get the word to U2 that the guys just, they screwed up. So U2 somehow or another found the guys at U2. They found these overcoats, and they drew on mustaches and beards, and they went out. Oh, what the hell did they call themselves? I forget.
Is that the Dalton Brothers or something?
Yeah, or something crazy like that. Yeah. So they went out there as a country band and opened, and it took the audience a good, probably 10, 15 minutes before they realized that it was U2. Like, at first they were booing him, and they were really
oh God.
He's doing a Southern accent, and it's just, it was, and then the guy showed up, obviously, and then we went on, but that was pretty funny. Did
you get to play with U2?
No, we met them and stuff, but we never actually played with them. But, they were cool dudes. We got along pretty well with them.
Yeah, I can see that, because they're very roots oriented with, the Irish scene, and then also with the Americana sound.
Well, their story is similar to ours. They were not high school buddies, but they were all, they all kind of went to the same school, and, they've known each other since they were, 10 or something like that. So, yeah, that was fun.
Who's one artist that you would like to play with that you haven't played with yet?
That's a good question. I'd like to play with Tom Waits myself. I mean, Dave's played with him. Dave's played on a bunch of his records, but that'd be a high honor for me. We actually got to do, when we did a record, The Ride, a number of years ago, we sort of crossed off a lot of, we got Bobby Womack and Mavis Staples and Elvis Costello.
Yeah, Elvis.
Ruben Blades. And, we sort of crossed a lot of dudes off that list. So... but yeah, that'd be a big deal for me. And as a band, hard to say. I mean, maybe B.B. King, I think that'd be big. Would have been big. I don't know. That's a good question.
What band do you regret never seeing live?
I can tell you the story. So when Radiohead played at the Greek, it was a big deal. This was right after. Wasn't Kid A, but I think it was kind of a big deal. And a friend of mine worked for Capitol, so I got record company tickets. And so how the parking is at the Greek, I was on one of the satellite lots and stuff like that. And it was a warm night, and I had a jacket. I'm not going to need this jacket. And I wasn't living there, so I had a rental car. So it was one of those deals, back in the days when you had a key to open your trunk. And how and the cars were all in a line, so it's it wasn't if anybody you only leave when the car in front of you leaves. So I'm all excited. I get to see Radiohead. I'm a huge fan, still a huge fan. And I go to open the trunk, and the key snaps off in the trunk. And it was the ignition key. It's the same. It's so I'm oh no, what do I do? And I was I can't go. I had to call AAA and had to wait for them to bring out, so I missed them. I was in the parking lot. I could hear them over the hill.
Wait, was your ticket in the trunk?
No, but I couldn't leave the car. It's I would have been blocked 1,000 cars. It was, the way that they park, it wasn't in the lot. It was on one of the side streets. So if I would have left, literally everybody would have had to wait for me to then get AAA there to leave. We would have been there till 1 a.m. So,
they would have hated you.
Dutiful citizen that I am, I chose the better part of the valor to get my get a key. And so I missed the entire show.
I know we're running up on our time, but you've always been just a very level-headed person. Love music, taken it to production and stuff like that. What would you say to your 19-year-old self or somebody just starting off in the business?
Oh my goodness. I would say never say no. So many things good things have come from me, like facing fear. Like I'm not thinking that I wasn't qualified or I wasn't good enough, or I was going to screw up, or step on my step on myself somehow. So I would say, I've tried to follow it. That's what I told my kids. I tell my kids, it's really, really good for you to be scared to death sometimes. Like to face something, to do something that you really don't think you can, and do it. Just try it. Just do it. Just see what happens. And that advice has served me well over the years. A lot of times when I didn't think I was the right guy for the job, or for whatever reason I wasn't going to pull it off, somehow or another it worked out. So I think, it took me a while to get to there, but I think that's good advice for any musician. Like, don't think, just try it, and learn from it. If you fail, just learn, just examine it and see what you could do to so you don't fail next time.
Beautifully said.
Congratulations on this album that's going to be out. Sounds awesome. Can't wait to see you guys on the road.
Thank you.
Like I said, we got the Pacific Amphitheater show coming up. That's going to be a party.
Yeah, there's a few surprises, I think, on that one. So
good.
You've got about 50 shows all the way through July 2022 right now that are, I think, on your website. So
it's we're kind of making up for lost time there a little bit.
Thank you.
All
Thank
right,
you
guys,
so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Steve.
Continued blessings.
Bye.
What a great band. I mean, I've had the opportunity and chance to see them many, many times. And you reminded me of one that I completely forgot about. That was at Disneyland, a Mark and Brian kind of thing.
Yeah, we did an event. It was the grand opening of Tower of Terror at Disneyland, at California Adventure, which is no longer there. Well, California Adventure is. The attraction is now Guardians of the Galaxy. But yeah, when we did a private night there, I think we had like 10,000 listeners or something like that. And Los Lobos was kind enough to do I think a 45-minute concert for people. So it was really cool.
That's awesome. That is very cool.
Yeah.
So SoCal.
Yeah.
Thank you, Steve Berlin, for joining us on the interview today.
Special thanks to Brian Heisler and Brady Brock at New West Records for coordinating the interview. And also a big shout out to Lisa Sexton for helping us get in touch with the band. She is the best.
Thank you, Lisa.
Find more about the band at their website, loslobos.org. There you can find tour information for their upcoming shows that are scheduled now all the way through July 2022, including the one with X and the Blasters at the Pacific Amphitheater in Costa Mesa, California on August 1st. If you don't have tickets for that, you better get them quick because like Steve said, there's probably going to be some special things going on at that show with all those great LA bands.
Man, that's going to be quite the show. You can follow the band at Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Los Lobos. The new Los Lobos album, Native Sons, is released on July 30th. Pick up a copy wherever great music is sold. Help support your local music retailer by purchasing it there, or you can always stream it.
Go to our website to check out our show notes. There you can find out interesting notes on subjects that were talked about in today's show, including some of the cool videos featuring Los Lobos, along with links to the story about the band opening for Public Image and what happened at that event. And also there's the video of you two as the Dalton brothers is up there. We found that and popped it up there. So there you go. We always welcome our new listeners wherever you are in this world. In fact, we just signed up for India. So we're hoping while they're still going through the pandemic, they can listen to the podcast. Thank you for tuning in. Please subscribe to the podcast if you haven't already. And please share us on social media with your favorite rock friends. We're on Facebook and Instagram. All right, Reeds, give us some trivia answer.
Time for that question. David Hidalgo is one of the lead singers and guitarists for Los Lobos. His son, David Hidalgo Jr., plays drums on many of the tracks on the band's new album. What other well-known Southern California band does David drum for?
I wouldn't have guessed it.
Yes, you would have. You wrote it.
Well, I meant
what question? It's a great one. Another great LA band?
Orange County.
Social Distortion.
Yes.
That's pretty awesome. Pretty awesome.
Great drummer.
That's it for this show, man. And we're done.
We're toast. But we'll see you in a couple weeks. We got plenty of shows coming up that we're actually in the process of recording right now. So stay tuned. Take care, everybody. Thanks for listening. Bye.